Hello guys, Void here, coming back at y'all with another deck tech video for a patron. Got a brand new one here in Knight's Oath. He wanted me to do a Elesh Norn Grand Cenobite Commander deck tech. For those of you who don't know what she is one of the Praetors, 7 mana for a 4/7 with Vigilance, and other creatures you control get +2/+2, but creatures your opponents control get -2/-2. So right there, she is just built up with an Anthem, and ideally what you want to do is play tokens, go wide with this strategy, and it's ideal because you're just getting more and more power for your entire team the more creatures you have. But also, she is pretty nasty for your opponents to have to deal with and get around. A lot of commanders just die right off the bat. -2/-2. It's not very friendly. However, this is a very powerful option as a mono white commander. She is just fantastic, especially for tokens like I just mentioned before, but also a little bit of control. There's also a combo in here, which I'll get to in a second, that is quite disgusting, and it's likely going to win you the game on the spot. So let's talk about the land base here first. We play Emeria the Sky Ruin, pretty standard for mono white and commander. If we want to be able to recover, getting creatures back from our graveyard is pretty important. Nykthos Shrine to Nyx is a staple in just about every single mono-colored commander deck, and white is no different. Snow-covered plains, we need about 30 of them. In total, about 38 lands. And the main reason why is for extra planar lens. Their basic snow lands are also plains, which is pretty cool. And then we have the combo here, which Urborg Tomb of Yawgmoth and Cormaspell. Now, before I get any questions, yes, you can play Urborg Tomb of Yawgmoth in a non-black deck. There are no black mana symbols or any other mana symbols. There's no tap to add anything. It just turns all lands into swamps in addition to their other types. And all lands are colorless, so yeah, you can play it in a non-black deck. Cormaspell is fantastic because it turns all swamps into 1/1 creatures. Now, the combo here is all lands are becoming 1/1 creatures. Your opponent's lands, more importantly, and our commander gives our opponent's creatures -2/-2. So right there, that should be a pseudo Armageddon. A little bit more difficult to pull off. But yeah, once you do this, it's likely going to win you the game. Plus, you also get a ton of lands that are turning into 1/1s on your side of the field that also get +2/+2. So that's a ton of power that you're working with now. And you also get to keep your lands. Other artifacts we want to focus on here are Setup, our Mana Ramp, Soul Ring, Basic, Marble Diamond, comes into play tap but can tap for white mana, which is important. Mind Stone, 2 mana, taps for 1, can sack itself to draw us a card. Very underrated. Commander Sphere, can tap for 1 mana of any color of our commander's color identity, and it can also just sack for free to draw a card, which is also pretty nice. Thran Dynamo, pretty simple, 4 mana for something that can tap for 3 colorless. Gilded Lotus, 5 mana for something that can tap for 3 white mana, which is very good. And we also have Extra Planar Lens, which I just talked about with the snow lands. It's very important. Our opponent's plains won't be able to tap for double white mana because they're not snow-covered plains. And we have Gauntlet of Power, which gives an Anthem for all creatures of the chosen color, which is also pretty cool. There are going to be a ton of Anthems in this deck. Also, pretty much doubles our mana as well. Cage Sun doubles our mana, gives another Anthem, but just for our creatures, which is pretty cool. And then we have other artifacts in the form of Expedition Map. Going to tutor up our Urborg. Ideally, that's what we're going to use it for. If we're absolutely desperate, we can just tutor up a plains. Sensei's Divining Top. White doesn't always have the best card draw, so might as well get some sort of top deck manipulation. Lightning Greaves, pretty good. Throw it onto Elesh Norn or any of our creatures to protect them. Pearl Medallion, cost reduction for white, never a bad thing. Shrine of Loyal Legions, can build up over the course of a game if you don't want to do it any earlier, so you can cast a ton of different white spells, get more counters on it, or just wait for your upkeep in order to put more counters on it that way. But once you finally pay the mana, sack it, you get a ton of 1/1 little tokens. Pretty cool. And we also have one of the newer cards in the deck, Oketra's Monument. Makes our white creature spells cost 1 less. And whenever we would cast a white creature spell, we get a little 1/1 warrior token. Definitely adds to the emphasis of the deck, which is tokens and anthems. Spear of Heliod is technically an artifact, but also an enchantment. However, it is a pretty cool anthem, little +1/+1. Also has the ability of destroying creatures that deal combat damage to you, which is a huge bonus that not a lot of people notice this card for. Then we have a Chrome Chroma's Memorial. Just a ton of static abilities you're giving to your creatures, pretty much making them all Chromas. Pretty hilarious. And the Anthems, in addition to this, are just going to be a nasty combination and going to help you win the game. Now we move on to our creatures. We have Weathered Wayfarer, going to help us get some land drops as long as our opponents control more lands than we do. Pretty good. Mother of Runes, very useful, gives protection from any color we hate. Grand Abolisher, going to protect us. We have a lot of good spells in here, and we don't want them to be countered. We don't want our stuff to be exiled in response to attacking. Anything like that that can disrupt what we're doing on our turn, we don't want that to happen. Mirror Entity is good, sort of a group pump type effect, can give all our creatures base power and toughness XX, and we just invest as much mana as we want to into that, and that's just fantastic. A cool little mana sink. Solemn Simulacrum, very important for this type of deck where we don't have the best mana ramp and we don't have the best card draw, so having that in both in one creature, pretty good. Heliod, God of the Sun, gives all our creatures vigilance, which is fantastic. Elesh Norn already has vigilance, but pretty good to give tokens vigilance. Also has an activated ability, which we don't really care for. It's too expensive and we don't really get that much value out of it anyway, but it can give us a token if we're desperate. Hero of Bladehold has Battlecry, which is kind of an Anthem, gives +1/+0 whenever it attacks, and other attacking creatures as well, and gets us tokens whenever it attacks as well. Gives us exactly what we want, more power on our side and more tokens. Angel of Jubilation is fantastic. Other non-black creatures we control get +1/+1. That's just about all of them. And players can't pay life or sacrifice creatures to cast spells or activate abilities. This card is awesome, very underrated in the format as well. It shuts down so many different strategies like you wouldn't believe. Geist Honored Monk can get us 2 little 1/1 spirit tokens, flying, pretty awesome. Also has the whole power and toughness equal to the number of creatures we control, so she can get pretty big there. Karmic Guide, awesome recursion, also has protection from black. Has the annoying echo cost, but who really cares? Angel of Invention also gives an Anthem to our creatures, but can also get us some more tokens, or just make herself pretty big. And then we have the Sun Titan. It's pretty obvious in a mono white deck in this format. Sun Titan is an auto include, puts in so much work whether you have fetch lands in other decks, or in this deck you have a lot of these smaller artifact enchantments and even creatures that are under CMC 3 or less. Getting those back, it's good for your consistency. You have Captain of the Watch, gets us soldier tokens, gives our soldier tokens vigilance and +1/+1. Anything that can give us tokens on ETB is usually pretty good in the deck. You have Krovax Ascendant Hero, one of my favorite cards in the entire deck. All white creatures get +1/+1, and all non-white creatures get -1/-1. But the coolest thing about him, in my opinion, is the fact that you can pay 2 life to return him to your hand. That is fantastic. It dodges so much removal. Any board wipes, anything like that, where your creatures would normally be in danger, well, your other creatures might bite the dust, but this guy can return himself to your hand. And he just adds to the whole Anthem theme, and also punishing your opponents with a -1/-1. Great combination with Elesh Norn. You have Darien, King of Keldor. Whenever you be dealt damage, you get that many 1/1 little tokens. So again, adds to the whole theme here. We want more tokens. Never really a bad thing to force our opponents to not attack us unless they want to give us a ton of advantage with our Anthems. Then we have Evangel of Heliod. Very underrated card. Doesn't see a lot of play. Gives us 1/1 tokens equal to our devotion to white. A lot of cards from Theros had this whole devotion mechanic. This one is very powerful in this deck. We have 2 devotion from our commander, and we have a ton of permanents, enchantments, artifacts, creatures that have devotion to white. Angel of Jubilation is 3 devotion right there. So it's not unrealistic to get a ton of little 1/1s, which again, tokens are a popular thing in the deck. Then you have Vasan, Angel of Hope, our biggest creature in the entire deck, and she puts in a ton of work, makes our permanents indestructible, even our tokens, so we can just swing in there with really no consequences. They're not going to die unless our opponents can exile everything. They're usually screwed. Very powerful Angel. We do play 2 Planeswalkers in the deck, so we have a Gideon, ally of Zendikar. Usually his plus and his 0 are relatively useless. You could either swing in there, he's indestructible, not really that big of a deal, or you can get a 2/2 ally creature token. Again, not really that big of a deal, but it's something. However, his ult is where it's at. If you can ult him, I don't even know if I would call it an ult. It's not really that powerful, but it is an Anthem. It's a +1/+1 for all your creatures. So if you can imagine ulting this guy multiple different times, you have an emblem that's never going away, and all your creature tokens are just going to benefit from that. Fantastic. We also play Elspeth Sun's Champion because, hey, why not? Her plus gets us 3 1/1 tokens, which with Anthems, again, never a bad thing. Her minus is good removal if we have to deal with any gigantic creatures that kind of get over our tokens. And her ult is pretty much a win con, an even bigger Anthem that gives our creatures flying as well. So she is perfect. If we get her out there and she's not dealt with soon enough, we're likely going to win the game. We have some good enchantments in here as well. We have land tax, because again, consistency is not always the best thing in the deck. So if our opponents have more lands than we do, we get to search up for 3 basic lands. So that's pretty cool. Honor of the Pure gives all of our white creatures +1/+1. This is your typical Anthem effect. And then we have Crusade, which just gives white creatures +1/+1. So yeah, it gives your opponent's creatures who are white +1/+1, but likely our anthems are much bigger than theirs. Then we have Lumen Ark Ascension. If we are not dealt combat damage consecutive turns for a while, we get to just suddenly pay 2 mana to pop out a little angel there, a little 4/4 flying angel. And if we have enough mana, we can just keep doing this. We should have a big enough team. Throw in some more anthems, give some more power to these 4/4 flyers. Again, very popular win con in mono white. Anointed Procession. This card, I've said this before about this card, fantastic for white. We don't really have a ton of token synergies with white other than just making them. And aside from the whole anthems, there's really not a whole lot of ways that we can just abuse, get more and more tokens. So Anointed Procession was basically our parallel lives in this color. And it's perfect. You get twice as many tokens. Any of your token producers are more powerful now. Just a wonderful card. Marshal's Anthem doubles as recursion, but also an anthem there, +1/+1. However many times we kick it, we get a creature back from our graveyard, so that's just fantastic. And then we have Catheters Crusade. Never a bad thing when you can get multiple creatures out there that are going to be getting that many +1/+1 counters on them. Love this card. I put it in just about any single white creature-based deck I have, especially in mono white. It's pretty much a no-brainer. Dictate of Heliod. Just +2/+2 to all our creatures for 5 mana with flash on enchantment. Pretty much gives us what our Elesh Norn can already give us in the form of other creatures we have getting +2/+2. So in total, +4/+4 for all of our creatures, with the exception of Elesh Norn. That's pretty powerful. True Conviction. Again, I throw this into just about every single white deck that is more or less combat based. Double Strike and Lifelink is awesome. Just the Lifelink alone, it's enough to help you grind out games, but Double Strike, it's enough to get over so many creatures in the format. Now we move on to the Sorceries, and we have some pretty cool ones in here that are capable of giving us a lot of tokens. Martial Coup is sort of a token producer that if we have 5 or more into X, we can then destroy all of their creatures, which if we have enchantments or artifacts that are giving us anthems, that's likely not going to be a problem because we put out a ton of gigantic tokens and also get rid of all other creatures, so that's fantastic. Decree of Justice. If we're not able to get the angels, we're able to cycle it away, just get 1/1 tokens. That's never a bad thing to settle for drawing a card. Wrath of God. Pretty typical mono white removal. Destroy all creatures that can't be regenerated. Conqueror's Pledge. 5 mana to get us 6/1/1 core soldier creature tokens. If we kick it, we get 12 of those instead, so 11 mana for 12 1/1 tokens. I think that's a pretty good deal. Increasing Devotion. This card's also pretty awesome. 5 mana for 5 1/1 tokens, and it has the flashback cost of 9 to get us 10 of those tokens instead. So again, more value. If you invest more mana into these, you get more tokens. Pretty simple. Austere Command, all around awesome removal. White is usually good at dealing with creatures pretty well, so being able to deal with multiple different permanent types, such as artifacts and enchantments, is also fantastic. Hour of Revelation is also an awesome auto-include, one of the newer cards in the deck. Has the awesome cost reduction there, so you can just end up paying 3 white mana to destroy all non-land permanents. Very good removal. Usually white is fantastic with board wipes anyway, so this is nothing really new. Deployed to the front for 7 mana, we put X 1/1 white soldier tokens onto the battlefield, where X is the number of creatures on the battlefield. This isn't just your creatures, it's all creatures, your opponents included. You can get a ton of tokens for just 7 mana. I think that's fantastic and well worth the cost. We have Mass Calcify. Pretty good. Destroy all non-white creatures. Usually when something like this is that good and it excludes your creatures, it's going to be a little bit more expensive, so the 7 mana isn't really that bad. We have some awesome instants here. We have Enlightened Tutor, which is going to help tutor up Cormus Bell, the artifact that I mentioned earlier that synergizes with Urborg, killing all of our opponent's creature lands. That's also fantastic, and it can also search up other stuff, enchantments, artifacts that we need. Pretty good card. Swords to Plowshares, Path to Exile, 1 mana white removal. That's pretty much a staple in just about every single format that can play them. Super efficient, and what you give up in return for exiling the creature is likely worth it. Secure the Wastes. For 1 mana instant, just to get one white warrior creature tokens equal to how much you put into X. That is fantastic. I love these instants that you could just play at your opponent's end step and get a ton of value for it. Then you can untap and then have your whole turn to work with whatever mana you have. That's pretty fantastic. White Sun Zenith, pretty good, gets you cat tokens, pretty much like all the other Zeniths where they shuffle back into the library after you're done using them. And then we have Return to Dust. You can use it at instant speed to just exile 1 artifact or an enchantment, but if you use this on your main phase, you get to then exile 2 different ones, so that's pretty good. You want to be able to deal with non-creature permanents in these colors anyway. So anyway guys, hope you enjoyed this deck tech, hope you enjoyed it. Knight's Oath, thanks for becoming a patron, one of my newer ones. I enjoyed this deck tech very much. I think it's cool with this whole Anthem Tribal. That's pretty much what I think I'm going to call it. Anthem City, something like that. Anthem Tribal. That's pretty much what the entire deck is. It's focused around pumping your team up. And she is just a fantastic commander. I've always felt like she was more underrated because she warps the game around her, forces your opponents to get rid of her. Very much like Sheoldred, but I feel like she's a little bit more oppressive in the fact that she's always doing something with the +2/+2, -2/-2 that's going to piss off your opponents. And for that, I mean, she's just a fantastic monocolored commander to choose from. Can't really go wrong with her. When it comes to mono white, I don't think there's really any other commander that I enjoy as much as I enjoy Elesh Norn. So anyway, you guys have a wonderful day. Void here signing off.